right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sprites, Bytes, and Pixels. We are here at episode 32, which is my age. So I guess this is 32 and I am 32.
Oh, come on. That's already painful, man. Like I'm gonna be 40 in a couple months.
So I guess we'll be at episode 40 by then.
I'm doing a podcast with Jailbait over here.
There you go. I know, man, dude. What did they say? A jail cell is just a room. Age is just a number, and a jail cell is just a room.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what they say, man. So everybody. Yeah.
So when I'm posting this to YouTube and it says, is this video appropriate for kids? I'm gonna have to put no now. You realize that now, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We shot ourselves in the foot. All like 6 of our viewers, we might lose 1 or 2, which is a pretty significant percentage. It's like 33% of our viewers gone because we missed out on 2 views.
Just like that.
I know. Oh man. Shit, man. So much is happening in the world with like Ukraine, Russia, COVID. You know, every single time we have one of these episodes, like, you know, I'm so thankful COVID is slowing down. Things are gonna return back to normal. And then no, it's like F that. We're gonna throw another wrench into everybody's plans. And good luck with your lives. Collect your bottle caps if there's a nuclear fallout. Hide in a bunker. You know, make sure you have a pet German Shepherd with you that's very trustworthy. And then stock up on canned goods, and you should be good.
With all due respect, though, it's terrible what's going on right now. I know we have like a lot of devastation, but I feel like this is more intense than like what we're used to. Just in like what's being brought to us. Like, yeah, there's been wars, but this feels more I shouldn't say unnecessary, but it just feels like there could have been another way to fix this. But instead you have like just someone who is very power hungry, who just, pounced, and you had another side that just was not ready for this, or maybe didn't even expect it. So yeah, all due thoughts and prayers,
100%.
all of that. Seriously, like it's a lot. Wifey brought me coffee.
Well, what did you get, a large, or did you get an extra?
I got a tea. I got a large steep tea.
Oh wow, you're changing things up, man.
I've been drinking tea for a bit. Yeah,
I love tea. I see, sometimes in the past, I remember you getting like large double doubles, extra large double doubles, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how your body functions.
I still do. I always do my larges, but I for the most part now I usually drink tea. I think I started like when I got my back injury, kind of as like a soother, or like a difference from coffee. And I've been drinking my steep tea now, and I dig it. I still get coffee once in a while.
Nice, dope. But yeah, I do agree. It's a very tense situation, and as lighthearted we like to keep things, it is, we do hope that everybody on the eastern side of Ukraine, or Ukraine in general, is safe, and we don't get to a position where the world is involved in World War III. So knock on wood, we don't get to that point. Today, what are we talking about? We're going to talk about what we're currently playing. And I think we might have a crossover for the first time in a very long time. Because right now, I am playing Horizon Forbidden West. What are you playing?
I am also playing Horizon Forbidden West, but you're probably playing it more than I am.
I'm not.
I've actually put maybe 2 nights worth into my playthrough. And when I say 2 nights, I think I had one long night, maybe 4 or 5 hours. I would say less than 10 hours I've put into it. Maybe even less than like 6. And I guess it's just because I've been occupied with other things. I just got a few things going on, and I was just like, do I want to play it today? Do I not? Am I enjoying it? Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful game. It's gorgeous. There's a lot going on. I've died like a few times, which is, a sign of a good, challenging game.
Yeah.
It feels more mechanical, and I don't mean like in the way that the animals are. I think it feels like more mechanical in how you utilize your weapons and like what you need to use for certain enemy types. Because
Yeah.
with the old Horizon, they didn't throw in like elemental damage until a little bit more into it, or like they threw in like one type and
Yes.
then slowly introduce others. I'm finding in this one in
Yeah.
Forbidden West, they are throwing more at you at one time and
Yeah.
kind of just saying, hey, you should already know how to do this. You
Yes.
know, here's some new stuff to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the expectation there is people that are getting Forbidden West have already played Zero Dawn, so they're
Exactly.
familiar with it. But I agree with you, man. Like, it is one of the most beautiful games I have ever played. The one thing I'll say though is maybe because this is the first time in a very long time that I got a game at launch,
Me
and
too.
yeah, and it's like what I'm noticing is there's still like some buggy situations. I don't know if you're finding these.
The
Yeah.
audio, are you did you get that audio issue?
No, I had a visual video issue. Yeah. Mine is if I use the focus and I do the focus pulse, right? It shows me the X markers all across the map. I guess that's what they use to like create these maps and these visuals and stuff. So I'm seeing all of that. And when I'm like jumping onto like a ladder or something and I'm using my focus pulse, I see those X's as well. It's not a big deterrent, but it's like it doesn't seem like it's a fully finished version of the game.
I'm getting things I would say arguably worse than what you got. Even in the introduction video, I was getting like popping, like things would like it would show the landscape and then you know some more like it would either like fill itself in more or I would get like things popping into view. This like
Wow.
pop, instead of like slowly coming to you, would just
Yeah.
all of a sudden just be like boof, like
Yeah.
right there. But even worse, I have gotten cutscenes where the audio, there's no audio. They're
Why?
talking. There's talking.
Dude, that
Good thing I
sucks.
play. Good thing I play with subtitles. I always
Yeah.
play my games with subtitles just in case, because
Yeah.
sometimes there'll be a background character saying something
Yeah.
in different games. Like
Yeah.
I've played games in the past where like there's a character talking in the background
Mhm.
and there's subtitles for that character, but you can't hear what that character's saying because
Yeah.
they're so far away. So I like playing with subtitles. If I wasn't playing with subtitles
Yeah.
on Horizon Forbidden West, I would have missed like certain dialogue.
Yeah. It's I feel like Horizon Forbidden West is like the graphic novel of video games, where it's like a big portion of the game is like the cinematic scenes and like the storyline, because it's not like a crazy challenging game. I died many times in that Silent Strike challenge because I don't like doing Silent Strikes. I'm like, yo, let me go like balls to the wall, start shooting this thing, attacking it, but no, kept on dying. So
Nah, silent strikes are my thing, man. I'm more assassin than warrior.
are you like
Always.
a Metal Gear Solid fan then?
It's funny, I've never played Phantom Pain, or not Phantom Pain. I've never played no, it's Phantom Pain, right? Yeah, Phantom Pain. I've never played Phantom Pain.
Interesting.
Is that
I
what it's called?
I don't even know. I thought just in general, Metal Gear Solid had a lot of stealth components in the game. It's not just like hack and slash.
Well, no, I'm referring to Metal Gear Solid 5 because when Metal Gear Solid 5, before Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, the it kind of had a prequel that
Okay.
was its own game, and I thought it was called Mount Phantom Pain, but maybe it's called Ground Zeroes, maybe Ground.
What
Oh
system
my
was
god,
it
it's
on?
really
All my stuff is on.
it would have been like PS4, right? Whatever.
Okay. Maybe.
And anyways, yeah. So after the prequel, they did the actual game, which I believe is Phantom Pain. I don't know. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna look at my iPad. You keep
I'm checking it
talking,
right
and
now.
I'm gonna.
It is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. You're right.
So what was the other one called? Was it Ground Zeroes? I don't know why I'm struggling with this.
Metal Gear Solid, we got Phantom Pain. That's the only
Metal
one.
Gear Ground Zeroes. Okay, yeah. So Ground Zeroes was a prequel that was released as its own game, but it was only like 4 or 5 hours tops.
Oh, sure.
Maybe 10 if you did everything, but it wasn't that big a game. But it was kind of to ease the thirst of people wanting the new Metal Gear Solid game. So
Yeah.
after Ground Zeroes came out, Phantom Pain was actually released.
Okay.
So long story short, no, I haven't played that yet. I actually haven't played Ground Zeroes either.
Okay.
Um,
Me
I'm one of
neither.
those people. I'm one of those people that like I've told you before. I like to play in consecutive like order for
Yes.
the
Yes.
games,
Yeah.
and I've only gone up to the third one until I had on PS2 a cutscene freeze on me.
Mm,
Turned off the PS2 and just I just never went back to it. No reason. It was
yeah.
just I was like, all right, I guess I'm done with this for today, and then I guess something else caught my eye. I eventually would like to play the other Metal Gear games
Yeah.
because Phantom Pain was huge, but usually when I played these games or like games like Horizon or Ghost of Tsushima or things like that, I like to do a more stealthy approach.
Okay, I am not stealthy. I would say I'm also not like a close combat person. I like using ranged weapons. So when I was playing God of War, I was using the throwing axe a lot.
Yeah.
When I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, I would use like all of my weapons consistently. I was like, I don't like having arrows. I don't like having flaming arrows, heavy arrows, blast arrows, kunais, all of that stuff. I would use that, get rid of it, and then it would make it more challenging because I'm like, I don't like close combat, but it forces me to do that.
In I did like Ghost of Tsushima for making you get into other types of fights.
Yeah.
Because I would usually play stealthy, but some of the missions or some of the extra goals
Yes.
would be like um,
Do a face
final
off,
attack.
kill like four people. Yeah,
Exactly, like things that require you to actually engage in combat instead
yeah,
of constantly stealthily killing people. And
yeah,
I appreciated it for that. But I do try to do stealth more because um, if I can kill an enemy easier and like move on,
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
yeah. Nice. Well, I guess that's the way that gaming is developing or evolving. Would you say we've come a long way from Double Dragon, the days of Double Dragon, Streets of Rage, and I think this
You
brings us to our topic today.
Yeah, because you actually haven't said what our topic is.
I know.
Our topic is the modernization of kind of like the retro scene. Um, you know, right with technology, it can be very difficult to actually play older consoles and video game systems on these televisions
Mhm.
because of like the hookups that we have. I actually watched. It's ridiculous. Like it made me feel really old because somebody posted a picture in a gaming group that I'm in of the old Atari console, like the wooden console.
2600. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that looks like a giant long like chair.
Yes.
Um, and they showed the back or the hookup, which is like the coaxial, the thing that we're all used to as
Yeah.
like older people, and they were like, "How do I hook this up? I don't have this on my television. What
Yeah.
is this?" They didn't know what they were looking at, and
Yeah.
it sucked because it made me feel like ridiculously old. Like there are ways to still hook these consoles up because of the different adapters and devices that have been created by gamers of our age or even older who kind of um wanted other people to experience what they did but in a new like kind of modern age.
Yeah.
So the topic is the topic kind of refers to situations like this. And if I may start, you actually, it's funny because the segue that you did, you actually had a better segue earlier. It was probably good that we didn't use that due to the um, direness of the situation. But speaking of Russia and Ukraine specifically, Ukraine has, well, the EverDrive, right? The EverDrive is this cart. So picture like a Nintendo cart,
Yeah.
and this is a Nintendo cart, but you picture a Nintendo cart and you slip like an SD card in it and you put in your console and you can play like all of these games on. They're all going to be like ROMs,
Yeah.
but a lot of people use these EverDrives, and there are EverDrives for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis. I have myself a Game Boy Advance one and a TurboGrafx one. And it allows people to be able to play ROMs on their consoles with the actual hardware, so the controllers, without having to like play them on something else like a computer or a modded Xbox or things like that. Because people like I have a modded Xbox and I have like all of these different games on Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all that. But you have that controller, and a
Yeah.
lot of people don't like using that controller. So the creator of EverDrive, Crix or Kirks or
Okay.
however you pronounce it, he's from the Ukraine. So he's
Interesting.
actually, huh?
I said interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's from the Ukraine. So he's actually been posting lately, the situation that's been going on. And there was one of him, like right now, he's bunkered in his basement, like hiding from everybody. He said, like, I can't, I'm stepping away for now until stuff, calms down. Like he's terrified.
Yeah.
It sucks to kind of bring that up, especially with this topic, but yeah, like the creator. So the retro scene can be, it has been embraced like all over. It's,
Mhm.
when we think of like video games, even still, like we kind of stick to our, North American and maybe even sometimes, well, yeah, Ukraine's in Europe, so more North American and like Japan, but Europe has also kind of introduced their own additions to, the retro scene. And give people a chance to kind of play there in their own way.
Yeah.
Um,
I think like, as gamers that are in North America where we just experience gaming from a North American level, but there's a whole subculture or culture of gamers that are in Europe. Their PAL is a region specific code for a reason that sells quite a few games on a yearly basis. And then aside from that, just what you were talking about in terms of like the EverDrive, when we take a look at gaming in general and we started like where it was initially, so the 2600, for example, like you take a look at console based gaming, you would have to buy a system, you would have to buy a controller, maybe a second controller, then you would have to buy some cartridges, and that would add up over time and it would become very expensive. Like it would be very tough for one person to own an entire library of video games not named Wilson. The person's not named Wilson, it's very tough for them to own like thousands of games. So one big game changer for me was it was probably like the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006, where I discovered emulation on the PC. So I would be able to emulate like Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, N64, all these different systems. And yes, it wasn't like I wasn't using an N64 controller if I was playing like Smash Bros. And yes, I wasn't able to use like a Super Nintendo controller if I was playing Knights of the Round, but I could at least experience those games and play those games because at the time, like eBay wasn't a big thing, Facebook Marketplace was not around, Kijiji was like fledgling. So it was tough for you to find these games, like A, just find these games, and B, find them for a reasonable price. So with emulation, what I found is I could go online and I could be like, some of the fun games to play on the Super Nintendo, and GameFAQs would have a list of some of the best like RPGs on the Super Nintendo. And instead of me having to go store to store to store trying to find these, I would just find the emulator and I would play the games that I wanted. I'm like, this is fun. This is great. And I remember I got Grandia on that, and I had never played Grandia before, but I freaking loved that game. And it was my only exposure to it was because I didn't have a Dreamcast at the time, and I could just play it on my PC.
Grandia, as in like the first one or the second one?
The
Because
first one.
okay, because you say Dreamcast. The first one, I believe, was no. I don't think the first one ever came to the Dreamcast. It was the second
Really?
one only came to Dreamcast. Yeah,
Oh, snap.
and and if it did come to the Dreamcast, it was only in Japan.
Oh, it is Grandia too. You're right. Look at you, man. You're like a Wikipedia of video games.
Yeah, the I believe the original Grandia was only in on the PlayStation
Okay.
and on the Sega Saturn in Japan.
Gotcha. Well, I guess it was Grandia 2 that I was emulating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you were emulating Dreamcast games?
I was emulating everything, man. I was emulating like Game Boy Advance games because I loved Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku.
Yeah, yeah.
And I sold it off and I didn't have it. And then I emulated that. And the best thing with emulation is like if you are not a good gamer, like I'm not a great gamer when it comes to like those type of games. I'm a lot better now with like these free roam games. But in those games, sometimes I would stumble and I would suck and I would keep dying and I would get pissed off. So then with these emulators, you could add cheats in right away. So if I wanted to speed up my character or make my character stronger or give him unlimited health and I was fighting a boss I couldn't beat, I would just implement the cheat, beat that level, and move on with my life.
So did you actually beat it? Did you beat the Grandia 2?
I don't think I beat Grandia 2, but I beat Legacy of Goku 1 and 2.
Okay.
And I speed ran it because I just increased the speed of my character. I was like zooming all over the place.
I did like that with emulation.
Yeah.
You could fast forward.
Yeah.
So that includes like even loading times because it still it emulates those loading times in as well,
Yeah.
which is, unnecessary. So you can actually, fast forward that loading time and like skip all that. Or, if you got to walk from here to here, you can just, and, make your character go faster. So I did appreciate that. When you were talking about the N64 though, yeah, I still find it exceptionally difficult, with the exception of the EverDrive, to emulate 64 games
Yes.
Properly.
Yeah.
I find that the 64 just has these like huge glitches, or it just looks like off from computer to 64, not to mention using a controller.
Yes.
Because the 64 has like all of these weird buttons on it, it's very hard to find a controller to mimic that N64 controller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you use a keyboard or did you focus on a controller?
Keyboard. I didn't at the time. At the time, I didn't even know you could like get peripheral controllers for the PC for those specific systems. So I was just using a keyboard.
Man. Yeah. Was that? It's funny you say that emulation. Like when you were doing emulation, like you were, you mentioned the Game Boy Advance. When I started doing emulation, I don't even think the Game Boy Advance was a thing. Like I was playing, I was using an emulator, which I still use because I still like it. It's called ZSNES.
Mm-hmm.
And I used that for the Super Nintendo, and it was great. And that's how I was kind of introduced. A buddy showed me it, and he was like, yeah, you can do all this and this and this. And I had such a shitty computer and I didn't have the internet. So I would have these like 3.14 floppy or whatever, like the little like the disc ones.
Yeah.
I would have those, and I would bring them to school with me, and I would like go on emulator sites, and I would stick the disc in, and I would try to download games that I could take home and like load onto my computer at home.
Right.
But the problem was some of the games were actually bigger than what that floppy could hold. So some games I wasn't able to install because they were just too big.
Man, kids these days, they don't know how easy they have it. I remember when I was a kid, like, and I wanted to play like games online, it was like go to miniclip.com or like pogo.com and play those Flash games.
PopCap.
What is that?
Oh, dude. PopCap Games. So PopCap Games was a great like site to play like games, certain like different types of games. Like, do you know the game Bookworm?
No.
So Bookworm actually, went on to like, I think there are actual physical games now. I think they maybe popped on a DS or maybe the Wii or whatever like that, but it's also digital. And it's kind of like become its own thing. It started off as like a spelling game, but it's branched out into other types of forms of spelling games. I believe there's like a quest one now. Mm-hmm. They all still involve spelling and words, but it kind of became a series, and it originated on PopCap. I want to say maybe even Bejeweled started on PopCap, or something close to that. I'd have to look it up, but yeah, PopCap was like a huge thing for me.
Nice.
And that's how I played a lot of my games. But Miniclip was great. And what was the other one? Armor Games. Armor Games was a fantastic website, and those games have actually gone on to be on consoles.
Interesting. I just remember I used to play this game. It was like stickman fighting, like two stickmen fighting each other, and it was like Matrix level effects. Like
I think I played that.
Yeah. Different times, man. Different times. But if you take a look at the evolution of just like, or the modernization of gaming in general, aside from emulation and EverDrives, the one thing that I look at is, and this is something I brought up in the past too, is like in my life, I want to be able to experience like immersive virtual reality.
Yes.
And um, I saw this like rig setup recently. I don't know if it was on Reddit or something, but essentially it's like Oculus has a treadmill, like a 360 treadmill or something, where you strap yourself in and you walk around.
Yep.
And then it was like a full rig setup where you have like the headset, your controllers, you're strapped in. So it's getting more and more immersive. And then Facebook was like investing some serious money into haptic technology. So you can actually feel what's happening. So if you're touching something, you can actually like feel that touch. Or if something's like hitting you, you can actually experience that. So I think we're moving closer and closer together. And like virtual reality to me is like the end goal of gaming. Like that's fully immersing yourself into something. Um, I'm pumped for that.
I actually looked into buying one of those treadmills or swings or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call them. They're fucking expensive. Like
Really? How much?
you're looking at like 2000 maybe. Yeah, like they're expensive, maybe 1500. I don't know, but it was when I saw the price, I was like, oh fuck, I don't know if that's worth it. Like I don't have an Oculus, but I
Yeah.
have a PSVR, and
Yeah.
there are certain games that would work great on because
Yeah.
you're not plugging anything into that
Yes.
treadmill.
Yeah.
You're just using it to kind of move around. So
Yeah.
when you're moving with the controller, you can kind of move your body as well to kind of go along with it because um you get that motion sickness you're if part of you is moving and
Yeah.
then part of you isn't. It really throws you off.
Yeah.
And because I explained before that I had an issue with motion sickness. It was something that was right up my alley, but at the same time, like, where the hell am I going to put it? And I'm not going to pay that much. Like, it
Yeah.
was brutal paying for the Polymega,
Oh,
which,
there you
speaking
go.
of, like,
Speaking
that's
of,
you have all these companies now that are actually making their own modern versions of these retro consoles.
mhm,
Like in one of our past episodes, I brought up the Polymega. It was in our collecting and gaming episode of 2022, episode 30,
mhm,
milestone. Uh, it was it's this console that allows you to play all of these other types of physical media
mhm.
on one device. It's funny. When I was editing the episode, I actually forgot to bring up one of the things that it plays. So I said for the CDs, it plays PS1,
Yeah.
Sega Saturn, Sega CD, um, and there was another one. See, I'm already forgetting. Console CD. Oh yeah, Turbo CD.
Yeah.
But I forgot to bring up that it plays Neo Geo CD as well. So it plays
Interesting.
like, yeah, if I forgot about that. And with the modules, I actually forgot to bring up a module. I said that there was a Sega Genesis one that plays Sega Genesis and EverDrive and Mega Drive. There
Mhm.
was a Nintendo one that plays Nintendo and Famicom, and
Yep.
there was a Turbo Graphics one that played Turbo Graphics, Super Graphics, and PC Engine. I forgot to bring up the Super Nintendo one.
Oh
There's a
shit.
Super Nintendo module that plays Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, and the European Super Famicom stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, all of these, imagine one device besides a computer
Yes.
that plays like all of these games on it, physical media.
Yeah.
And that is something. It's a huge thing because if you had told me there was going to be something like this, in the past, I probably would have scoffed at you.
Yeah.
Um, because I didn't think we were ready. Like, digital media and physical media are very different. And because with physical media, you're kind of at the mercy of the item. I
Mhm.
find with digital media, you can kind of manipulate it your
Yes.
own way to be like, hey, maybe if I do this little tweak, that can make this work. If I
Yeah.
do this little tweak, that can make this work. But with the physical media, you can't tweak this. You
Yes.
still have to tweak the device that you're playing it on.
Yeah.
So for this console to be able to play all of these games is pretty tremendous. And I will also bring up analog.
Yes. I was gonna bring it up.
Analog You know what? Then you bring them up.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't know much about it, but I do know that it's like very high in demand. It's essentially like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's essentially like a high definition version of these old systems. So if it's like NES, Super Nintendo, I don't know which other ones that they have, but it connects
Sega
through
Genesis.
Sega Genesis. It connects through like HDMI ports, so you get much better visual experience, but it's still like a physical console, right? I don't know how the controllers work.
So analog, they started off, as everybody else, kind of like the new kid in town, but they slowly proved their worth with
Yeah,
each console edition that they've come out with, and they started off with the analog NT. I don't know what NT stands for. I want it's probably like short form of Nintendo or something like that, or um, Nintendo Triumph. I don't know, but
yeah,
it was the analog NT, which was a Nintendo console that allowed you to play Nintendo games. I want to say it also allowed you to play Famicom games as well. Um, I could be wrong, but anyways, you would be able to play these games on this console, but it was like pixel perfect. So I find with like a lot of the clone consoles
yeah,
that when you play a game on them, there's going to be some sort of discrepancy or some sort of like just something that seems off, whether it be like um, lagging um, or or screen tearing. So like
mhm,
a screen kind of one part of the screen not really moving with the other part. So and
yeah,
then they kind of come together.
yeah,
That's kind of what screen tearing is. Shimmering. So like I think shimmering is like shiny areas or like, you know, instead of it being like you focus on the pixels are kind of like, you know, a little bit more flashy.
yeah,
So like all of these different elements on a clone console makes it for a less immersive experience
mhm,
or, a lesser experience than like someone had when they were playing on other consoles. Analog came along and they
yeah,
kind of changed that. They made it, they made these consoles that allowed people not only to play their games in like, great vision and HDMI compatibility, but allowed them to kind of tweak those games with like, you know, the screen, like allowing them to enlarge in the screen, allowing them to change like the resolution, not the resolution, but like the different brightness and all of this um in a way that the gamer wants it. You want to play it in like a CRT mode, go ahead.
yeah.
You want to play it in a longer mode, go ahead. um I can't remember if they had save states and stuff. A lot of their consoles don't have as much thrown at the player as like um other consoles,
Mhm.
but what they do extremely well. And after the analog NT, they had the Super NT, so people play Super Nintendo, Super Famicom. Then they came out with I want to say it was the analog SG,
Mhm.
which was the Sega Genesis version. And now they've come out with the analog Pocket. I don't have any analog consoles, but
They're expensive, man.
yeah, that's the other thing. I am very, very focused on that analog Pocket. Many, I'm on the analog website. Like I have a tab saved on the analog website on my phone, and eventually I'm just going to click buy. I am getting to that point where I am going to get one of those because lately I have been playing my Game Boy Advance, like my Game Boy Micro, and like you know handhelds.
Yeah,
So the analog pocket allows you to play like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and it's going to come out with these adapters that
yeah,
you connect to the back of your console that'll allow you to play Neo Geo Pocket, TurboGrafx 16,
yeah,
Lynx.
yeah.
So like all of these other games on one console, and I think it's the first time Analog's actually ever done anything like that, where they've had like additions to their console. So this is a new step for them as well. You
Yeah.
can also buy a dock that allows you to connect that console, that pocket into to what play games on your TV. Um, and it's really neat. But yeah, long story short, analog, you know, has been helping people play older older games on like in like a newer way, in a
Yeah.
newer, I would argue, improved way.
How would you argue that they're improved? Is it just because it's better quality?
Yeah, like we have such a rose-colored glasses look
Yeah.
sometimes, or like nostalgic look sometimes on the way we played games.
Yeah.
I remember playing, Ninja Turtles, like the arcade game, like on the Nintendo.
Hmm.
And what I remember now compared to what I see it as when I'm playing on an HDMI TV on like an emulator or whatever
Hmm.
is kind of the same. But in truth, it's they're very different visuals.
Yeah.
But because it's been so long, I don't really remember what it was like as a kid playing on that CRTV
Yeah.
using coaxial or composite, but I believe it was coaxial that we were using.
Hmm.
Um, um, so it, I would say it's better performance because we're we're not getting that lag, we're not getting that screen tearing, we're not getting that kind of fuzziness or brightness or stretched picture. Like we're getting the way you remember it, or the way it was meant to be on a newer console.
Yeah. In a better, in like a better visual as well. Not having to
Yeah,
deal with like very few people still have a CRT TV at their house, but they
yeah,
still want to play these older games and these older systems. So I think Analog is doing it. They've identified a niche that is very passionate about gaming, that is very passionate about collecting. And let's say most collectors do drop big money on their collections. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how how like Analog develops through time, because I'm sure they're not only going to release like one version of the NES or the SNES. I'm sure there's going to be new ones that are coming down the pipeline. Maybe they'll be like similar to Analog and that other system you were talking about, where you could interchange the game, so like you could play any
Polymega.
SNES. Yeah, who knows? Anything is possible. All
It's
right.
it's definitely like I love it. I love the time that we live in because younger people are being introduced to the things that we enjoyed,
Yeah.
in a different way, but in a possibly more better way than how we experienced it.
Yeah.
Like the analog pocket, you can take a game out, so you can play your GBA, you can put it in sleep mode,
Mhm.
take that game out, put the game back in, turn back on sleep mode or turn off sleep mode, and your game is fine.
Damn.
Like you can't. I don't think I've ever heard of any console that will
Yeah.
let you do anything like that, new or old.
That is nuts.
So that's a really cool thing. So like I remember playing the Nintendo back in the day, and someone kicked it, accidentally. Like you'd be playing a game and someone
Yeah.
would trip over the cord. We've all
Yeah.
had those stories,
Yeah.
you know, and then they wreck your game.
Yes.
Imagine, imagine having like things like that. Like it's just it's really cool. Like I know they're not the same thing, but it's still really cool to see that the game doesn't have to be there for the game to actually, be there. Like just if you're like slide the game out accidentally in your pocket
Yeah.
when you have it on sleep mode and you're like, oh shit, the game's out, and you put it back in and the game's still running again. That's awesome. Like that's
Yeah.
that's really cool. So to see things like that, um
It's similar to
it's
the
just
PS1 though, like when you did that like hacking trick with the PS1 alternating the CDs.
yeah, yeah.
It's like once you get it started up, it still continues to play sometimes. So it's I had no idea that Analog did that. So that's pretty
Well,
dope.
and I told you before, like I used to play. There were some games that you could play where, Vigilante 8, for instance, um, if you started a round like a match, because it was just like a Twisted Metal type of game, so like
Mhm.
car combat. So you would start a match, you could pause the game, take the disc out, put
Yes.
another CD in, and I used to put in Fatboy Slim. You've Come a Long Way, Baby. I
Yeah.
was obsessed with that CD. That's when it had Rockefeller Skank, Praise You, and
Yeah.
like all these other awesome songs. So I used to put that in, and then you unpause the game, and you could hear your music while playing that match. And then
No,
yes, and then once the match was over, you would have to take the CD out and put the game disc back in,
that is
and then you could
insane.
yeah, there are certain games that you could do that with. I was very experimental with my PS1
Yeah.
when I was a kid. Like, just because you would hear like songs from games and you're like, I wonder if I could play my own games on this. And from there, I kind of experimented because if I can select tracks for, the game, like if the game lets me select tracks, I wonder if it will let me select tracks from another disc. And from there, the mind kind of wandered. Then I
Interesting.
learned that, I could play PS1 discs on a CD player, and I could hear some songs from there. Sometimes you would just get, but other times, like
Yeah.
you could actually get actual music.
Interesting. I had no idea this was a thing.
Fun fact: anybody who has, I'm not going to ruin it. Fun fact: anybody that has a copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night for PS1, put that in your CD player.
No.
You will hear something that you won't be able to hear on an actual PS1, unless you like listen to the CD player part of it, because you know how you can just open, like leave the PS1 open and then turn it on and it will go right to the CD player, or you can select the CD player, put it in a CD player, or use the PS1 CD player and listen to the first track.
Interesting.
You
We
will
need to have
hear
an episode
something.
on hidden Easter eggs in gaming.
I'm your guy for that. I can introduce a lot of crazy things that I've experienced or know about from games that maybe other people don't know.
Maybe that's a topic idea.
I am a walking encyclopedia of just
You are.
garbage.
You are just a Wikipedia of gaming in general.
I am a garbage encyclopedia.
Dude, if there's ever like a Jeopardy video game edition, you have to go on that.
I don't know if I would be that good because then they get into like years and like very, very specific things. With my mind, it's more like, yeah, it was kind of like this. My mind is more like it was kind of, not it was. Like this is exactly what it was. Like I can't tell you what exactly uh, that PS1 thing is about. I just know because I've heard it that it was something very, very different and interesting. That like I'm referring to the Castlevania thing,
Yeah.
but I couldn't tell you the specifics.
Okay.
But and I'm trying to be very vague about it, because I don't want to ruin it for other people.
Yeah.
But seriously, like, do you have Castlevania Symphony of the Night?
No, I don't.
You know what? Once we're done this, I'll get the disc and you can hear it.
Okay, awesome. That'd be dope. Let's do it. All right. Well, I think we've hit the 1 hour marker on this. It was a great chat, understanding the modernization of gaming. Thank you,
For sure.
Wilson, for your crazy mind of so much video gaming knowledge. And yeah, we hope everybody enjoyed this episode. We will see you guys next time for episode 33. Inching closer to 40.
Boy, we're getting close. Yeah.
Later.